21 breakfasts, lunches, snacks, dinners, and desserts.
Reno. Also slamming stocks, a new report showing foreclosures hitting a record in the last 3 months of 2007. But we also found out that pending home sales, well, they held steady in January. Could this be a sign that the worst is over? Dani Babb is author of Finding Foreclosures and says homes are ripe for a rebound, but Gary Kaltbaum disagrees. Okay, Dani, if I had $1 for every time someone has come on our air and said we've hit bottom, I'd be a rich woman. But why do you think we really have this time?
Well, I'm not a bottom caller, Terry, but I can say that housing is showing very strong indications of it being a great buy. And I'll tell you, my #1 reason to say this is that banks are starting to actually loan money again. The demand has been there for the past few months due to the decreased price, but people weren't able to get loans, and they are today.
Gary K., is that what you're hearing? Because I've heard that banks are still being extremely tight, even with good credit.
Well, Terry, only in fantasy land am I hearing that type of news right now. Look, bottom line here, the only thing that's going to cure this is price and time. Price to come down far enough where demand is there underneath here. And with all these foreclosures, that's just going to continue to take prices down. I have to tell you, in the front page, not in the middle pages of the Orlando newspaper yesterday, another 100 condos to be auctioned off at lower prices than they were a year ago. So all the resales that are going to come on have to meet that price. It's just going to take a very long time. We're not even close, unfortunately.
Dani, Gary K. is at ground zero in Orlando, one of the worst housing markets, but still, even around the country, it doesn't seem like prices are falling.
Okay, well, in 2/3 of the metro areas in the United States, since the beginning of 2008, the prices have actually gone up, and so has demand. In last year, in 2007, that was exactly the opposite. 2/3 were decreasing. So that's an indicator. We also know that in the West Coast and in the Northeast, areas that were battered last year, we've seen demand and sales in the resale, not the new homes, but in the resale homes, increase since January 1st, 2008. We also know that new lending standards and the ability for people on the West Coast to get jumbo loans loosening up a bit will start to help demand. And we haven't even begun to see the impact that the boomers are going to have in areas like where Gary is. And certainly he's at ground zero. There's 4 or 5 states in the nation that are still suffering dramatically. But it's really local and it's very state dependent.
Gary K., let me bring you in here on the stock market as well. Do you look to the stock market also to give you a sign of where housing is headed?
Oh, most definitely. Look, the housing stocks are breaking down again. The retail stocks are crashing here. The bottom line is the consumer's in big trouble, and there was a certain number that came out today. For the first time since they had statistics of home equity, it's below the 50% line versus debt. All this is going to weigh on things going forward. The wealth effect that was heading north for so long is now heading south. People feel less wealthy, and that's going to cause a problem. By the way, I speak to banks all the time. I speak to people in the housing business all the time. Restrictive lending continues to be out there and is only getting worse right now, not getting better. And we're seeing margin calls in municipalities and hedge funds. And I just think it's going to take a lot more time.
Dani?
You know, I don't think the hedge funds are a very good indicator of what's happening. I've also been talking with lots of banks, lots of lenders. I got a 95% combined loan-to-value loan last week. It's not that bad in every single area. It's very dependent on the individual, what their credit's like, what type of home they're wanting to buy, and the pressure that foreclosures are putting on the market, which no doubt is decreasing price, is only going to increase demand. That's how market equilibrium occurs. I think that's a good thing.
All right, you're obviously a very, very good credit. Thank you, Dani. Thanks, Gary K.
Thank you.
Well, snow and a tornado watch at the same time in the state of Texas as a wicked ice storm slams the Midwest. The costs are mounting. We're all over it.